Welcome back. Yeah, ciao. Tutto bene?
Hi guys. Hello. Are you sure it works? Great. Okay, hello everyone. Welcome. Welcome. Thank you so much for being here. We're really happy to have you guys for our new sessions of 7 Peaks Speaks. Tonight we're going to talk about cloud. We have our internal speakers and we have our special guest as well, Alex Smith from Microsoft APAC. We're going to have Nassau Bihard as well from Alibaba Cloud. But just before we start, let's make a quick introduction of 7 Peaks for the new people who are here. So thank you again for being here on site, online. My name is Patrick. I'm the head of talent acquisition at 7 Peaks. Talking about 7 Peaks, the company is a international tech company, originally based in Norway since 2009. We have been in Thailand for more than 8 years now, supporting various clients in different industries from finance, banking, insurance, e-commerce, retail, telecommunication, and so on. What we're doing, we're providing end-to-end services from mobile app development, web development, UX, UI design, QA, testing, and of course, cloud solutions. 200 employees at 7 Peaks with 25 more nationalities. It makes it very, very, very various in terms of culture. And this is what we praise, corporate culture. You can follow us on social media, so please follow us on Facebook, on LinkedIn, to be up to date to our new events, our new case studies, and every activities that we're going to put online. As I said, I'm sure that you know we love coding. We are hard workers, but what we enjoy the most is also party harder. So we take every opportunity to enjoy a success, the project with our client, and we do indoor, outdoor activities. We're playing trying to play football on FIFA, I guess. But something that we love the most, these 20 nationalities, is also various food. We love eating from Norwegian delicacies or Thai food, French food, wine tasting, barbecues, and so on. We provide fringe benefits for our employees, free lunches, snacks, and name it. Finally, we're growing and we are hiring. So if you have anyone interested, friends, colleagues, former colleagues, etc., we're hiring in cloud, in backend, front end, in QA, in project management, and so on. So you can look at the email there, contact us at jobs@7peakssoftware, or just scan this QR code to get more information about the company, the upcoming events, and as well the job vacancies. So let me invite our first speaker, one of our talented software developer, Kunmin.
Hello. Hello everyone online and on site. My name is Min. Currently I'm a mid-level software developer at 7Peaks, and I've been working in the IT industry since 2019, so it is like almost 3 years and a couple of months. So today I am going to take you guys into the how to containerize your applications, which I will start first with explain and describe to you guys what are the containers, like what exactly do we mean when we say containers in terms of technical terms, and then I will continue with the goes into what are the advantages and disadvantages that I have discovered from using containerization, and then I will close my session with the some quick example on how to containerize a .NET application. So let's not waste our time and go to the first topic for today, which is what are the containers. So, when we think of containers, for those who are not really familiar with the technical stuff, you can think of like a box that we have some goods inside, and then we ship that around. In software development terms, the containers means the software that contains all the elements that you need to run an application, which are the application codes and the all the other elements like the dependencies or some libraries that you are using in your application. And container is like also like a more lightweight version of virtual machines. I will move on to the next slide to show you why we are saying that the containers is a lightweight version of the virtual machines. So inside the application container, like I just mentioned, inside we have the application codes and the dependencies inside. So but on the virtual machines, when you deploy your application within the using the virtual machines, right? You can see here that we will need to have one virtual machine. Inside there, you will need to manage the guest OS on that virtual machines, and then you also need to manage your application. And all of these need to run on the bare metal and have this hypervisor where it acts like the software that manages all the VMs. You will need to manage all of this, and you need to calculate on like the hard disk size and all the memory size that you need. But with the containers, you just need the one host machine and have your Docker engine runs on it. And once you have your application containerized, you can just ship those containers and run it on Docker engine, and that's all you need to manage. Which all you need to manage means that you just need to manage all the containers. That's why I said that they are a more lightweight version of virtual machines. So this is just to make a more visualized comparison between the containerized applications and the applications that runs on virtual machines on the VM. So it's kind of quite obvious that for some use cases, containers is more of like a better option for you to choose when you want to deploy your application. And I just take this example from Microsoft documentation, which will, they have also the suggestion on what are the things that you might need to consider when you want to containerize a .NET application. And as you can see here, for those .NET framework that has the versions from 2 to 3, you might need to start with taking the .NET Framework version 4 containers and try to run that application first. And if it not works, you can just shift to 3.5. But for the .NET Framework version 4 and up, as you can see there, you can start with use that .NET Framework version 4 to containerize your application first, and if it doesn't work, you can fall back to the other versions. And the 6 or 7 is the same thing, where you can just take the .NET 6 and 7 version to work on your application, and that's it. The next thing is so why do we should consider to start containerize our app? Well, all the developers here, I believe that everyone has said this before, it works on my machine, it works on my local workspace and stuff. So once we have this containers concept comes in, it means that you can tag your code that works on your local machine and ship that code to every development environment. So these terms were not valid anymore because you ship your code to every environment. So that's why we should first start thinking of using containers. So starting with the advantages of these containers itself. First thing is it helps to achieve the goal where we write code only once and use it all across the development environment, which just like what I showed here, write once and run anywhere. You don't need to repackage and create any version for it. And it also helps increase the time to market, where you can deliver your application to the customer much faster because you don't need to manage all those complications of seeing versioning. And it also enables the versatilities for the developers to choose to operate your applications whether on the virtual machines or just on the virtualized environment. It also enables for you once you use this. But of course, that it just doesn't have only the good things. There are also some cons that we need to consider as well before using this method. The first possible disadvantages is that if your project has many containers, that is the first thing that you will need to think about, how you are going to manage that, because it will be a bit complicated. You may choose to use something like the orchestration tools of your choice. And the next thing that also not a very nice option is, let's say if you have the application containerized in the Windows containers, you cannot just change to use Linux containers like A to Z. You just need to do many things before you change from one OS into the other type OS. Yeah, that's the other thing. And the last one is that if you have an applications that have a very rich GUI, like the graphical user interface, I would say we should avoid containerized type of application because it's not really compatible with that type of application. And the next thing, this is the example, a very quick example I think this is even for the beginner level can understand this. So the first one, you need to, if you have a .NET application, right, and you think of like, okay, I want to start create some container for my API application, you can start with create a Docker file. And then in that Docker file, you may have something like this. So start with the first one. We start with downloading this image of the core version 3.1 as a builder first, and then we set up the build environment variable. Like right here, I set it the value to local, and then we create some directory for this our API applications, and then we copy all the contents inside there, and we continue with building and releasing our API application into our build directory, and then we can start to run that application right away. And once we have all of this line codes ready, you can do the Docker run command you need to build this image first and then run the image that you have built. It's just simply as that. Yeah. That will be all of my sessions today. Now I am open for Q&As if anyone has one.
Yeah, I can.
Okay.
From your example,
Okay.
deploying containers versus deploying code in the more traditional way.
Uh-huh.
Which method do you prefer mostly, and how do you decide which method is most suitable?
For me, yep. Okay.
You are out of the
Thank you for the question. So the question is what are the factors that I use to decide whether I would like to deploy this application in containers or the traditional way? So my answer to this question would be, first, you need to think of the type of your application first, whether it is the type that compatible with containerization or not. That's the first thing. And if the answer is yes, then I'll continue to think about if the answer is yes, this type of application can be deployed by using containerization, then of course I would rather use it, because the reason being is first, I don't need to manage this application for all the environments. I can just make a container for it and ship it to across every environment. That's the first thing. And the second one is, since it is lightweight, when you have this application running in any environments, it takes less memories, and that will save your cost as well. For example, if you have your containerization app runs on Azure Cloud, if you compare the price that you need to pay each month of this app that runs on containers to the app that runs on virtual machines, it is much cheaper and will save your cost. That's the second one. Yeah, that is pretty much the thing that I consider when I decided whether to use containers or not. Yeah. Does that answer your question? Thank you. Any others?
You mentioned that you use Docker container mostly for environmental production releases and stuff like that, right?
Yeah.
Have you had any experience using it for local development?
Yeah, I also use that in the local development as well, because I need to make sure that the containers is run perfectly first before we can decide to push it into dev and promote it to staging and production later on. Yeah. And yeah.
No, I just wanted to ask that. The reasoning behind it.
The reasoning behind running it in local machine. Yeah, the first one is to make sure that there are no issues with the containers that I just create. That's the first one, and then pretty much the most important thing that why I decided to run it on my local machine first. And what else? Yeah, actually that's the only reason that I can think of right now. And that's the only thing that I think of when I'm working as well.
Yeah, cool. Thank you.
Thank you. Any others?
Other than the initial setup for setting up the app for containers, do you need to do anything special for the app for like a container environment compared to like a traditional method? Or is it like the same whether you like build it for a container or for like a regular server?
Honestly, to this question, I'm still new to this as well. So, can I ask my colleagues to help me on this a bit?
No, I was just wondering, other than the initial setup for for building an app for a container, is it any different compared to like when you would build an app for just a traditional server or server environment?
Okay, I take your question. If you write the log and you run the application in the container, where you have to write the log?
In the
In
okay.
She didn't get that. Yes.
I need to see it in the containers.
You deploy my application, my end application, and then you write the log somewhere.
Okay.
I run the application with the container. Where I write it? Somewhere or in the file inside the container?
It should be in the application, not the outside the container.
Why?
Or else you cannot see the logs.
So when you develop application, you need to think about a distributed environment because you are not able to enter inside the container. It's not inception. That you enter in a word, that is another word.
Yes.
Okay. So you should be everything on the same. Right? So when you start when you run develop or you start to develop an application in the container, of course you need to push yourself in distribute way, configuration, logging, all the other dependencies that you need. Of course, you can, for example, create the container with the database, but after you need to understand the scalability. Otherwise, when you run another one, you write some data in one database, the other one in another database. It's not okay. But at the end, if you relax these dependencies, 99% is equal.
Any other? Are there any others? Okay.
Cool.
So. Our handling this is Joseph.
My turn. You can go with the beer. I go with the set.
Yes.
Let me put my water somewhere.
Oh, we need to check the filters also. What water is a bit heavy.
It's sparkling apple juice. No water.
Hello. Hello, guys. Okay. Can you hear me? You good?
Yes.
Too loud? Good. Good. Okay. Okay, so good evening, everyone. Right, this is the second talk of the day. I'm going to be talking a bit about deploying your apps in Kubernetes. Right, so we just learned in the previous talk about container. Right, so let's start thinking about what you can do with these containers. Right, and how you can manage to get your container from the development machine. Right, your development local machine, right? And put this in the cloud or make it production ready. Right? It's a pleasure for me to be here with you. My name is José Barbosa. I'm originally from Brazil, but I live in Thailand 5 years already. Put Passatai Dai in Illinois, then Passatai San Pilau. And in my career, right, I have right now I have around 12 years of experience, and during these 12 years I have been passing for many different roles, right. But usually I've been working as software engineer or team lead roles, and what I'm really good at is that I can get an application from scratch, right, since from the local machine, and you can ask me to what are the options to deploy. And I can give you a good variety of options for you to deploy. Right. In the last few years, I have been focusing more about the soft skills parts of the job, right? Mostly about how to build a high-performance team, how to grow your juniors and mid-level developers, and for some they be a very a good senior developer, right? And currently, I'm head of backend at 7pix. We are hiring, and we are trying to build one of the best .NET teams in Bangkok. Right. So if you are interested, please let us know. Submit your CV. Okay. Okay. So let's what we are going to learn or what we are going to do today. Right. So first thing, we are not going to see so many demos. Right. And I had some demos, you can find it in GitHub, right? But it's not easy for me to run these demos and connect my screen here, okay? So basically, for the talk today, we are going to listing about concepts. We are going to understand when to pick Kubernetes, what is the case for Kubernetes, right? And when we should avoid Kubernetes, right? I think it was one of the questions asked, like, okay, should I go with containers? Or should I go with the traditional process, right? So we are going to take a look at some fundamentals of Kubernetes, right? And if you are starting with container now or with Docker, right? You have some new learnings. For example, what is a container? What is a volume? How you do the network between the two containers, right? In Kubernetes, you have also this learning required, right? So you have I would say small to medium learning step for Kubernetes. Okay, and it's way easier when you are talking about only Docker. And this learning step is way smaller than when you talk about Kubernetes. So we're going to see some Kubernetes fundamentals. And I believe if anyone here, or I hope and believe, right, if you are deploying something nowadays, probably you are deploying a cloud platform, right? Probably Azure or AWS or Alibaba Cloud or even Google Cloud. Right? Google is the creator of Kubernetes, right? Maybe if you are not aware of that. Right? And if you are going to manage your Kubernetes cluster, okay, and you probably will not be doing this by hand. Okay, all these major cloud platforms give you some Kubernetes as a service. Okay, and today we are going to take a look in the Microsoft flavor of this Kubernetes as a service called AQS. Okay, Azure Kubernetes Service. So first, why Kubernetes? Right? What are the alternatives that we have? Right? And what is the case for Kubernetes? Right. So to talk about why you should use Kubernetes, you need to understand first how you use it to do before Kubernetes. Right. So we have the traditional software development that is what we also call the non-container software development, right? So when we talk about how to containerize your app, right, it's basically how to get all this that we always do in a traditional way, right? How we can mix this with the new container technologies, okay? So in the traditional software development, you have a single source base, your code base, usually probably in a Git repository, Bitbucket, GitHub, or GitLab, okay? So your team is pushing commits after commits, okay? You have some CI, CD, or you do it by hand, okay? But in some moment, you are going to have the need to have that version of the code running in the productions server, right? So this is what we call usually say, okay, we need to do a deploy, right? And for who is holding the C# community, probably ever heard about the web deploys and that we did, right? You go right-click in your application, publish it to Azure, next, boom, your application is running, right? Who is even older than that will remember the time of PHP, right? You get the PHP, build as a zip, you go to the FTP in your production server, copy the zip to there, and zip and paste the code, and it's running PHP. Glorious. So you go to your PHP, you copy your files, you paste your Nginx, right? Everything is running. In this moment, you say, okay, we deploy. The next step, you go and monitor the health, right? Or you are going to do some smoke tests, or you are going to be waiting for some requests from some clients to arrive, right? And few of these, who did many deployments in the career, so knows that sometimes you do a deployment, everything is working fine, UAT validated well, UAT passed, the CI pass, the continuous deployment also pass, no fails, but for some reason the code doesn't run well in the machine. Right? So usually what we say that like, oh, we maybe have unhealthy instance, unhealthy machine, right? Let's replace this. I believe could be some hardware errors, right? These are very small chances to happen, but can happen. Doesn't matter if you use cloud or your own server. Okay, you someday is going to get an unhealthy instance, and you are going to or have to restart or recreate that instance and blah blah blah. But this will happen, right? So when this happens, you say, okay, let's shut down this instance. Let's start a healthy instance, or okay, let's migrate this deployment for the unhealthy instance to the healthy instance. Okay. Now with Kubernetes, okay. And in the last few years, this process changed a bit, right? And at the same time, when we use it to do this PHP, right, or this right-click, publish, next publish with Visual Studio, right, or even in .NET in a CI/CD, we are used to deploy a single binary, right? So all your project is a single deploy. And you update all that in a single deploy, right? But in the last few years, for sometimes for business requirement, right? So you have a project with 70 people, for example, a project very big, right? And imagine your project with 100 people working the same Git repository, open PRs and review, right? Very hard to manage, okay? So sometimes what we say, okay, let's break this big project in some small piece, right? And let's give a name for this small piece. Let's call this microservice, right? So many of the solutions that we build nowadays, they are not a single binary. Or your deployment is not only a single deployment anymore, okay? Now you broke your monolith in small piece, right? And this piece, technically, right, in the theory also, they should be running independently, and they should be talking to each other together for you to accomplish the goal of your monolith, right? So you get your single project, you split this project in many parts, right? And you deploy different binaries of that, right? And usually these services they talk with each other using a REST API or maybe GraphQL or maybe gRPC, okay? But the point is, each microservice is going to expose the APIs, right, or REST or any other protocol, okay? They talk between each other, okay? And you imagine that the sum of all the microservices should be equivalent of your whole monolith, okay? So what we have nowadays is something more or less like that. You have your client, your mobile client or your website, and so let's skip the API gateway for a while. But what we have here is a lot of applications, different applications, that they are running independently, right? And I have an API gateway that is basically the gateway where the requests come in, okay? And for who is outside of my microservice architecture, looks like my microservice is a whole monolith, right? I have a unified view of all my applications or all my services that I can interact with, okay? So when you start talking about when we have, right, this kind of scenario, right, is where we are going to start talking about how to manage these containers, right, and how to orchestrate this container, right? And what it means, let's suppose the first service, the red one, right, is your payment gateway, right, and the blue one. So the red one can be your front end, right, your storefront, and the blue one your payment gateway, okay, your payment service. So we just had on Black Friday, for example, right? Your red and blue service, your storefront and the payment, you probably want to scale these on this time, right? Because Black Friday, you are projecting increasing the sales. You want to have these more instances to support that load, right? While your other services, these are basically, let's suppose your back office, right? Your admin dashboard and some service, second tier service, right? So you don't want to scale these services in Black Friday. There is no point of that. There is no public user eating that, right? So when you start to have these questions about, okay, I have my microservice, I want to scale with 3 of these, and these need to have different fault tolerance, right? And then this is the point where you start talking about how to solve this problem, how to make this deployment easier, right? When you have less artifacts, right, you make your deployment very easy. Right? So someone asked when to use containers, or if you are talking about if you should use or not Kubernetes. Okay. First question: how many things you are going to deploy? Is one container? Maybe you don't need Kubernetes. Okay. You are going to deploy 55 containers. Right? You are some Netflix size of company, right? You are going to have, from these containers, you are going to have like 1,000 of replicas of this container running, right? So, okay, first question, how many deploys do you have? Is a single one? Okay, maybe you don't need that, right? And when you start to go to microservice, or when you start talk about containers, right, there are some things that you are not. You are avoid some problems that you have with the monolith approach, okay? But you are going to fall in other problems from the microservices approach, okay? You need to be aware that complexity don't disappear, okay? You are basically moving the complexity from one side to other, and you want to split this complexity in different parts, in different moments, to have one process where is not so much complex in the beginning, or not so much complex in the end parts of the process, right? So distribute monolith as a microservice. How you break your project is already one big challenge for the team, right? When you start talking about microservice, you need to start to remember about service communication, right? And these services are going to fail. These requests are going to fail, right? You have to start to think about you are going to have to reply, right? It can be that that service is not available, right? And you have many more moving parts and moving components, right? Now you have to do with your service A, B, and C. It's hard to manage the intercommunication between these services. Right? It's way easier when you have a single monolith, go to the database, and just call new methods and SDKs in your application. Right? You are going to need resources for that. When I mean resources, I'm talking about money. You are going to need money for that, right? And you also are going to need people for that. You are going to need a DevOps team to manage your Kubernetes or manage your microservice. If you have a monolith, maybe you have 1-2 devs, a Rails application, right? It's going to fit pretty well. You not necessarily need a container for that. You can go to Heroku without any problem. Right? And orchestration. Orchestration of the container is the complicated part. Right? To build the container by itself is not that hard. Okay, we just saw a talk about how I build these containers and how I get my application and how I containerize what is running inside that application. Okay, but when you go to production and you start to have a question, for example, how this deployment is going to be done, right? How is the rollout process? We are going to have timeouts on these or not, right? There are some applications where you have to be online 100% of the time. You have to do rolling out deployment, right? So when you are exactly in this scenario, you need automation. Right? Automation is going to allow you to deploy 50, 100 containers without any problem. Right? And the tool that is going to automate for you, right? The tool that you are looking is a container orchestrator. Right? A few years ago, we had Docker Swarm. Swarm. Swagger is the So Docker Swarm was a few years ago. Was a container orchestrator native from Docker, right? And we also have one other competitor, Kubernetes. Okay. A few years after that, today your container orchestrator usually are going to be Kubernetes. Okay. So we should use containers, Kubernetes or not. So few of things that I can tell you. Can you go for a static website instead, right? And deploy this in a CDN, right? If you can do this, don't go for Kubernetes. Kubernetes is too much for you, okay? Second question, do you really need a microservice? Right? What is the what are the problems that your microservice are dealing with? You are building a microservice, why, right? Third question, right? There is some other PI service can help you on that, right? In Azure, you have the Azure Web Apps, right? Does a web app doesn't fulfill your requirements, right? If no one of these options fulfill you, right? If you can't do a web app, if you can't do a Heroku, if you can't do a monolith, right? If you really say, okay, this is going to be a 4-year project, 100 people involved, and we are going to have to split these 100 people in 10 different projects. Kubernetes is the one you are looking for. Okay. In this case, if you have 100 people team and you have money for the DevOps, if you are running a billion business company, right, you have money for this to make properly. Okay. How much control do you want to have over the cluster? Okay. We can scale in Azure Web Service without any problem, right? But this will not give you total control of the cluster. you are going to be reliant on your cloud provider. Okay. Do you want to really? Are you okay with this dependence? Are you okay to have these applications running in the Azure infrastructure without any problem, right? Usually governments are going to have some constraints about that, right? Usually governments are going to require you all the data to be running in something managed by the government and not some public cloud instance, okay? And in this case, Kubernetes is really going to help you. Okay, so what Kubernetes are going to help you, and what is going to unblock you? With Kubernetes, you are going to be able to deploy your application as easy and as often you want. Right? You can even deploy many versions, right, of your application. So we are going to see a bit more about that, and that is a way for me to have my app version 1 running, and then I have my app version 2 running. But the only exposure to my public, the only exposure to my API gateway, right, is the app v1. The app v2 is only, I can only access through some internal networking. Right? Can be some, for example, UAT testing that you are doing, or some testing before the release, right? We are going to enable your ops team to monitor and restarting the application in case of failure. Okay. For me, this is the big seller of Kubernetes. Okay. If you have a Kubernetes, your application is not healthy. For some reason, the server died. You did some. You left some. Spring open, or you have some memory leak in your server, right? In some moments your server is going to die. If you're running Kubernetes, Kubernetes are going to make sure that if your server dies, you have your server up again, right? If you're running, depending where you're running if you're running a PaaS, probably you are not going to have this support, right? And your folks will go to manage the single application. At least this is something I realized for the ops team, right? When you have a Kubernetes cluster, the focus of your work as DevOps is manage the health of the cluster. Okay, so you are interested if the cluster is a health, not anymore if that specific application is healthy. Kubernetes also helps us to abstract the cloud infrastructure, right? So we rely nowadays to cloud providers to run mostly of all the applications that I do nowadays. I rely on some cloud provider. Okay, and with Kubernetes, it's kind of a layer of abstraction from this cloud provider. So for me, in theory. Even that I never did that, it is the same thing about you said you are going to change the database of your application. In theory, we should not change the cloud provider so frequently, but can be that these needs arise. Right? If you have all your infrastructure in Kubernetes, it's going to be easier for you to make this move. Okay. If I should use Kubernetes or not, depends. Okay. Take a look in your requirements. Take a look what Kubernetes will offer for you. Okay. Don't use or don't apply this just because you saw on Twitter or is the new trend in software. Okay. Make sure you pick the right tool to solve your problem. There is no silver bullet. It can be that Kubernetes is your solution. Can be that a simple Heroku or GitLab with some static content will help you, like Vercel, for example. Anyone here have ever used Vercel? Vercel, guys, Vercel. Okay, Heroku, Vercel. If these really don't satisfy you, if you have research, Kubernetes, Azure, AKS is going to be the path for you. Okay. So we saw now we are going to take a look at what is Kubernetes, right? And why Kubernetes is nice, why it's hard to learn. Right? So the first thing you need to learn about Kubernetes, it's love YAMLs. Okay. If you never wrote a YAML in your life, Kubernetes is not for you. Okay. If you like YAML, Kubernetes love YAMLs. Okay. Kubernetes is divided in two main parts that you need to know. Okay. You have a cluster. If you have a cluster, you have the master node. Okay. Who is the leader of that cluster? In that cluster, you have the master. Who is not master is going to be a worker. Okay. What is the difference from both? Your worker is the one that runs your software. Okay. Is that one that is going to have your pods? We are going to see what is a pod. Okay. But it is the one doing the work for you. The master node is basically the one that you use to communicate with your Kubernetes cluster, to manage your Kubernetes cluster, and is the one that is going to delegate and make sure that everything that should be running in your cluster is running. Okay. In the master, we have the API server. When you use Kubernetes on your local machine and you are sending commands, right, your CLI is basically talking with this API server running. Right? And you are going to schedule some deployments and some of the deployments, updates, rollouts. Right? All this is going to be the brain of Kubernetes is going to be for you. In the workers, you mostly have your pods running. Okay, your containers running. So divided in a simple way, your master is going to be managing and orchestrating your cluster. The worker is the one going to be running your application. Okay. And the easiest way for you to start with Kubernetes, right? Install Docker desktop. If you are Windows, Docker for Windows. If you are Mac, Docker on Mac. You go to the Docker options, there is a button, enable Kubernetes. Okay. You click it there, and in a few minutes your cluster are going to restart, and then you have Kubernetes running. So doing so, right, you can start to interact with your Kubernetes. And you are going to use a tool called kubectl or kubecontrol, if you prefer. Is a CLI to run and manage the Kubernetes. Is this CLI that is going to talk with the master node. Okay. And with that CLI, you can do a kubectl, get pods, get help, and any other command that you need. Okay. We saw about pods, right? Let's see what is a pod. Right? So a pod is the smallest unit from your Kubernetes. Okay. The Kubernetes don't manage anything smaller than that. So if you have a container, your container is running in a pod, okay, and that pod is running in a node, and that node is going to be a worker machine. So the pod is the smallest unit. A pod is made from one or more containers. Okay, so in a pod you can run one or more. You can run two containers in a pod. And there are very famous patterns that rely on that. You run two containers on the pod. So if you carry the pod, right, you are going to have information about the container running that pod, right, and you are going to have some metadata. All the pods, okay, all the containers inside the pod, you are running the same node. Okay. So a pod is not, you can split the pod in different nodes. And the pods will share network for communication and to talk with different pods, right? They will share the same network, right? So you have the pods. You group these pods in a namespace, right? So a namespace is mostly a grouping of pods, and they will have an impact to your DNS name. Okay, so mostly if all your services are going to be usually in the same namespace. Okay, After that, you have the nodes. And the nodes are basically the machines that you are going to add in the cluster. So the nodes can be two flavors. A master node, you have usually one or two in case of duplication, right? Or you have a worker node that is going to run your pods. Okay. And for these pods to communicate and talk with each other, you are going to need a network. Okay, so you have a pod, node, network. The next one, controllers. Controllers are basically the ones that are going to make sure everything is happening. Controllers are the one that is going to make sure that everything is updated how it should be. Right? If you declare that you want two pods running, two containers running, the controllers are going to make sure that it's running. We have the service. The service is basically a load balance for your pods. Right? So if you want to access that service through HTTP, you put a service. If you want to access that pods through HTTP, you put a service on top of that, right? And it can work. We usually represent the resource in Kubernetes as JSON or YAML. Okay, preferable YAML. And in some moment, you are going to parse that YAML to JSON to send to the Kubernetes. Okay, and this is more or less what a resource in Kubernetes looks like. And this is actually a deployment file. Right? You are deploying. The name of our deployment is Nginx, right? And the image that you are using is Nginx 114. This is your Docker image. So, if you want to learn more about Kubernetes, please go to kubernetes.io. You are going to have the documentation. Okay. Basically, your journey with Kubernetes is going to be this one. You create the cluster, you deploy the apps, right? And then you scale it. If you are using Kubernetes, and it's pretty hard to manage the whole cluster by hand, so your cloud provider is going to offer you some help with that. Right? If you are using Azure, that is the AKS, right? It's basically the Azure Kubernetes service. It's going to help you to manage your Kubernetes cluster. Okay, it's basically a Kubernetes as a service. So what AKS is going to do for you? It's going to simplify the deployment and the management of the cluster. It's going to integrate already with the Azure service, right? So logging, monitoring, load balancing, API gateways, all this is going to be easier for you. And the most important one here, the master nodes are managed by Microsoft. So you don't have any problems for that. You only need to manage the workers nodes. And you don't pay for the master node also. Okay. So if you want to get started, please go to Azure. There is a bunch of tutorials for that. I really recommend you to do these tutorials, learn and play a bit. Okay. And some other benefits, right? You have it is very easy for you to scale, okay? And also the self-healing for the master nodes. If the master node crash, Azure is going to be responsible to start a new node for you, right? And some other options, right? If you don't want to go for Kubernetes, right? Some other options that you can go. Right. You can go for the Azure Web Apps for containers. Right. Is a light way for you to start using some of the cloud and containers technologies without Kubernetes. Okay. On a pipeline with CI/CD with Kubernetes, right, and Docker is going to look like more or less this. Right. And after you have your PR, or when you have your CI, right, when you instead, when you have your commits, right, you are going to create a new version of that container. You are going to have the container. You are going to publish that container to a registry. The deployment is basically run that containers in your Kubernetes. Okay. If you want to learn more, Here are some things and patterns usually for Kubernetes. Okay. You can take a look. Here's the link. It's from Red Hat. Okay. You are going to have access to the presentation if you take a look. If you want to learn more, just go to Google. Things and patterns for Kubernetes beginners. You are going to find the first link. And this is all for Kubernetes for me today. Do you have any question? Questions?
Thank you for your explanation. And the main reason I think for using our Kubernetes orchestrator is for scaling up, scaling down. And I have a question about the auto scaling. Is there any option for Kubernetes for auto scaling? For example, we have a lot of requests today. We decided to auto scale our instances, or otherwise in the night scale down the application.
So yes, you do have options for auto scaling. So if you really want auto scaling, Kubernetes needs to be smart enough to identify how many pods or nodes you need for that machine. Right? And how Kubernetes do that? Right? Usually by CPU and by run. Right? You declare for Kubernetes that that pods need to be running with certain threshold of run on CPU. Right? If that thresholds are met, Kubernetes is going to scale up or down. Right? Some other things that you can do, scale up and down at night is very easy. You can do this without any problems. But usually what you are interested in automatically scale up by CPU and by RAM. Okay. So it's basically Kubernetes is going to be reading these metrics, and if the thresholds are met, you scale up. And works very, very nicely. I did that already, and it's not so complex, to be honest.
Okay, thank you.
Another question? My water getting warmer. So folks, if you don't have any question, thank you very much for your time. And before I finish, I just want to do one announcement. We have the .NET conference 17 December in Crew Digital Park. Right? So if you want to learn more about .NET, Cloud, or any of the Microsoft technologies, please 17 December Crew Digital Park, or you can check more in .NETconf.th.com. So thank you very much.
I have a question.
Yes.
What is your favorite pizza?
Oh, my favorite pizza, 4 cheese.
You're welcome.
So let's have some pizza. Thank you very much. See ya.
Okay, I will be fast. The remote control, sorry? Jose? The remote control. Thank you. Okay, we are going to speak about event-driven architecture, or event-driven, depends about your accent. I am Giorgio Desideri. I am the tech lead of the cloud department here in SLPs. I started work long time ago, and I covered several roles in the IT department. I started as a developer, tester, and I started to scale up. And I have several certifications. There is something about AWS and Azure. Okay, this evening I'm going to explain you the concept of the event-driven application by a normal way that happen in the science world. Okay, so the science discoveries is based upon 4 steps. I try to resume in 4 steps. Someone have the idea, Newton had the idea because the apple fall down over his head. There is some tentative to reach this idea. There is the mistakes. I cannot reach this goal for some reason. And there is the success. I want to mention two of the guilty inventor, scientist. One is Guglielmo Marconi, that created the radio. There is the legend that the prototype of the radio, the transmitter, the receiver, the transmitter, doesn't work. They made, one day is cleaning the house, a pinch of the maid fall down in the transceiver, and everything works. This is a myth, a legend. We don't know if it's true or not. We think that it is true. And Alexander Fleming, that is a Scottish doctor, that discovered the penicillin. Is discovered by accidentally, because he left the bacteria, the sponge and the mads open, and the day after he discovered that one of the mads destroyed the other one, and he created with this white powder over there, and he discovered the penicillin. Okay, Giorgio repeats every time, the mistakes are the first steps toward the success. So, in order to explain the event-driven architecture to you, I will proceed by mistake, or mistakes too. And I hope that you acquire enough knowledge to move through your success. Okay, mistake number one, the concept of event. Event that generate an action A and have a consequences on action B. It means you can transfigurate this concept over the service integration. Say to B that A needs your output. There is a service integration. There is no data integration. There is no data exchange. There is no data storage. An event is an event. The apple fall over the Newton's head. The idea was already in the brain of Newton. The apple is the event. The falling down of the event is the event. So there is nothing about the data. Alice called Bob is an event. Alice called, not the call is not the event. Doesn't matter what Alice said to Bob. There is the unpredictable flows that can be generated. The event you can plan. Okay, you have your beautiful diagram, but it's not a DFA or an NFA. You have a schema. After, you need to test the schema with your application, with your services. Because you define what is the type of the event and the service to connect. You don't define the sequence of the action that is generated by the events. If you have the definition of events A, B, C, one sequence can be ABC, can be CBA, BAC, or something other else. So you don't define the sequence, you define the events that connect the 2, 3, 4, 5, X services. Okay, first example. The event of publishing and subscribe doesn't contain the data. I subscribe a message. The message has the data. The subscription doesn't have the data. Oh, the publishing. The subscription is an event to subscribe even in a queue or whatever. It's a subscription. Okay, I'm ready to receive the message. That it means not what I have to do with the message. This is the common mistake, that the event, the people think that the event associated the concept of the event with the data that the event transports. two different things. Sorry, here, you have here, for example, the application, this service come back to the event grid to decide what should be happening. Here, if you see this is a loop, seems like a loop. The guests are doing what they want, need a machine learning to understand what is the next best action. This is taken from AWS about the hotel and guest management. This is an event-driven application because the customer and the service desk do what they want. They react against the guest activity. When you are in the guest in the hotel, you can do what you want. They are ready to receive your event, and here there is an automation where there is a machine learning that need to provide the best action. All is interconnected by the events, but no one knows what the guest is doing, or what is the data that the guest is transmitting this event. Mistake number 2, event or not event? That's the question. Be or not be? Okay, 2 examples for you. These 2 examples are driven by the mistakes of the misunderstanding of the event concept, or better, the association that an event contains the data. The overuse of serverless, or focus over something that is not related to the technical point of view. Where is the mistakes? Is on the right side. For you, it's on the right side. For me, it's on the left. This number here. You transform a classical API, assuming that can be a monolithic, okay, into a group of 100 functions that react to an HTTP call. Get, post, put, delete, fetch, whatever. Guys, it's too much. We exaggerate a bit. The event of the HTTP doesn't mean that you need to disaggregate your application, your API application, or SQL. Here is about the batching, or the butterfly effect. The butterfly barrier, butterfly effect. I receive an event, I put a file, this file will be computed, there is the fan out here, fan in into this, and this is another fan out to have a fan in inside the database. Classical divided imperative. I open to process a file. All the output should be restricted inside a one single point that will to produce several output, and this several output will be aggregated by something else. This fan out, fan in, or fan out can be regulated by an event. Sure, I agree. But don't exaggerate. This is a batch, divided imperative. You can use something else to be more manageable, faster, and deliver more quality. The key is to keep always away. Okay, what I show you is the mistakes regarding the knowledge, misunderstanding, and the definition of the context of requirements. You don't understand your requirement, you didn't ask, you proceed for your way. Easy. have an impact on the stability of the solution, the quality for delivery, development, test, cost, results, etc., and the extra complexity. I put 100 here for that reason. There is some reality that have more than this number, and they reach a point that they need to rebuild everything because it's unmanageable. Okay, so for information for you. Rule number 1: never speak about the Fight Club. Rule number okay, this is another meaning. Sorry. Don't choose the event-based architecture as first choice. Understand what you have to do. Because if you need a huge scalability, probably the event architecture can be your solution, or probably not. If you have some kind of data that should be processed in sequence, probably can be an event or not an event. You need to define very well your context. Rule number 2: don't choose the microservice architecture as first choice. Why? Because with the microservice architecture, apart that you choose and you implement well the microservice with the business domain division, blah blah blah, everyone think about the queue to communicate and how the several services should be communicated all together. Can be an event, cannot be an event, I don't know. Sometimes event-driven architecture is associated with serverless, and serverless is associated with the microservice architecture. This kind of concept don't follow the transitive property. If B equal to C, A is equal to B, in that way A is equal to C. No. Event, serverless, microservice. So microservice is event-driven architecture. No, consider these 5 pillars of well-architected framework. Every cloud has its own, but all the 5 are all equal. Excellence in the operation, performance, efficiency, security, reliability, and cost optimization. This is not performance excellence. This is security probably, okay, reliability, and cost optimization. You spend a lot to manage that. Here, this is the performance excellence and cost optimization tool, because you have several other things that probably, if you assume in one simple application, the cost can be less. Question. I know that I go so fast. I have my sorry. Fantastic. No.
Thank you, Giorgio.
Yes.
About the event, you said the event is not contains the data. Yes.
Yes.
So we can use it just for notifying the others, other, I don't know,
Other services.
clients,
Yes.
other services.
Yeah.
So I don't know what is it for.
The event. Okay.
Oh, okay. The main question is, okay, if we can notify the other client, for example, if it doesn't have the data, it needs to more work for doing something. For example, I notify the client B, the data is updated. And if the one step is for notifying client B for there is some update on some data somewhere, and then client B needs to query on other else for getting data. There is 2 steps, but maybe it's better to have some data to have 1 step.
Yes. Okay. I take that. I publish a message. The publishing is the event, is the action. I need to publish against, here is a service bus, okay? I need to know the data of the event is the name of the service bus and probably the queue that the service bus is. Those are the data of the event. The message is is related to the event. Of course, it cannot be an event without a data. But the point that I want to achieve in this concept is that you don't need to think that the event of publishing should be a message. It can be only, for example, the subscription, the init. I am here. I subscribe on the queue number 1 of the topic star. After I can receive or not receive the message. But I say to the service bus here, hey, I am here, I'm ready. I have this declaration. Please give me the message if you have. The event is what connects, have a small of the data, but the content of the data after depends about the event. In the HTTP, we have the HTTP body or the query string that have the data. In the queue is the message itself that you publish on the queue. On here in the AWS there is the several interaction about the upflow with the lambda. So one lambda called the other one with the output. It's a chain by input output input output input output. Here there is all the decision about that. So the event is what connects the service. It's not the data that transits by the service. The apple fall down in the Newton's head, but the idea was in the brain, not in the apple. Okay? And the apple doesn't contain the idea. Okay, I finish here if there is no question anymore. Fine, cool. Okay, give us, now there is a break of 5 minutes. Please take the QR code, scan the QR code, give us your feedback, because your feedback is very important. There is some pizza, there is the donuts. We prepare for the cloud discussion. In the middle of the time, you grab some food, and after I find myself with other 2 gentlemen to speak about something very important about the cloud of Alibaba and Azure. Guys, my time ends here. Thank you very much. Grab the donuts, because the donuts, they told me that it's very good. Pizza, okay, pizza is fine. Okay, it's fine. Cool. What you want? There is also the apple, the sparkling apple juice.
บางทีเราเป็นที่ช่วยและสร้าง data มันไม่เพื่อเราดึงข้อมูลแบบ on the fly เวลาจะเสร็จแล้วก็ออกแบบเทเบิลเพิ่มแล้วก็เอา data มาเสริมซีซั่นเก็บไว้ก่อนเช่นเราจะได้สอนปีเราไม่สามารถเอา data ทุกวันมาออกได้เราก็ปิดเซฟ data ทุกวันเป็นแบบว่าจะเอาตัวก่อนไปทำให้มีหลากหลายแสดงก็เลยผมไม่แน่ใจว่าเขาใช้เรารอได้เป็นการดูไปที่ใต้บางอย่างอย่างระบบปกติที่เรากำลังคิดเนี่ยเรียกว่าเป็นสิ่งคนนั้นเป็นโปรเซสที่เราศึกษาแบบ1 2 3 4 5 6 7 8 9 10ของเราตลอดแต่จริงๆบางโปรเซสเราสามารถเริ่มทำก่อนแล้วเราจดกันทำรวมเขียนรอก่อนได้สมมติเราทำ2ยังไม่ได้ผลนะแต่2เกี่ยวอะไรกับ5 6 7อ่ะ2ปล่อย2ไปหาผลลัพธ์ก่อนเราทำ3 4 5 6ก่อนแล้วเรา2กลับมาเริ่มทำแล้วค่อยเอาผลลัพธ์แล้วก็ไปดูแต่ว่ามันอัดซิงได้หลายแบบมากก็เลยเป็นดันซิเตอร์ก็สแกนแล้วมีหลายแบบคือหมายถึงอย่างแรกคือตัวที่ทางเป็นดีไซน์ถ้าแอปที่เป็นดีไซน์มันเวลาเราเปิดเว็บต่อได้อยู่ประมาณPower App เป็น Power App ต้องเป็นหลักเยอะถ้าเราจะต้องทำดีไซน์มีแล้วมีเปิด Power App เราลองได้อยู่ในกลุ่มที่ Power App จะเป็นสโตร์เราไปต่อ
Okay, guys, ready? Parliamentar? No, you cannot go away, Alex. Okay, okay. Alright, question number 1. The pizza is good or not? I need to blame you with your head. Okay, cool. Otherwise I need to blame you against the organization. John, it's your fault. Please, guys, sit. I will be there. Guys, please sit down. There is the bed here. The bed was here. Okay. This is the best adjustment. You like the pizza too? When happened this event? When happened? Just to come back in time. Okay. Welcome to our Santa Cloud in the town. We have here two representatives from Microsoft and Alibaba. They come here because they know that in 7 Peaks all the applause is real homemade. So please give clap your hands, please, otherwise they think that it was all fake. Alex and Nasar. So, we drink, they eat, we already drink. I would start this panel in the we read, I read, and there is some rumors about the possible election of Thailand as a possible cloud region. Now, all the clouds start to have this idea. Sever, for example, one of the cloud that opened in Malaysia is Indonesia was Google. And I would start with you, Nasal, about if you can speak about the opening in Thailand of the Alibaba region. Which kind of benefit give this region to the Alibaba business, but also to the people that use your services?
Yeah, first of all, I introduce myself first. My name is Naso. My name is Sun. I am the head of solution in Alibaba Cloud Thailand. So I take care of all country strategy, vertical solution selling and horizontal vertical selling also. Work with the technical team and the delivery team. And thank you for your question. And Thailand, Bangkok is very strategic country for every cloud provider over the world to make the strategic on the cloud growth. You know why? Because of the cloud compound annual rate, increasing every year, slightly increasing every year. And the most portion industry of the cloud consumption in Bangkok or in Thailand is the BFSI, is the banking, fintech, insurance, and startup, around 40% of portion. And we are here, Alibaba Cloud, we are here. We just know in the market, but we make difference. We focus on the industry-specific solution. What is the industry-specific solution? Like fintech solution, like media, gaming, and digital and gaming solution, and retail and e-commerce solution. For example, the retail and the e-commerce solution, we success with one of our customers. We build a SkyOS platform consists of the 4 or 5 modules that seamless integration with the cashless society and integrated with the offline to online, O2O, and the big data and loyalty campaign. This is the success of the retail and e-commerce customer in Thailand. So, and the second one is the fintech solution. We are ecosystem partner with the Ant Technology group in Singapore, and we have Ant team in Thailand. So, as you know, Ant team is the big financial group of the world, right? They gonna IPO, but something went wrong, so don't talk about it. Yeah, okay. We have like solution like EKYC, know your customer, EKYB, know your business. We have solution like Solos and biometric authentication. We have a super app building platform. Can use super app and mini app like WeChat or Alipay. Yeah. Go to the media and entertainment industry. We focus on some product and solution like streaming solution. Like you know, Thailand is the most country population that using the mobile phone, right? More than 8 hours per day. So we have video on demand solution. We have video production solution. Yeah, and out of this, as you know, we have launched data center in Thailand since April, right? The major benefit is the latency compared to cloud provider in Singapore. Like, we have data center in Singapore also, yeah. Compared to the latency time in Thailand is much different, right? less than 3 milliseconds if compared to the go to Singapore 10 to maybe probably 30 milliseconds. Yeah, around that. This is the first key advantage. And the second key advantage of the using cloud in local region, like in Bangkok region, is the cost optimization. You know why? If you export the cloud billing that you use every month, they have a one called data transfer. It's around probably 20 to 40% of the billing is consumed by data transfer. If you're using Thailand data center, is very little of this because every HTTP request is going to Singapore is cost money USD. Yeah. And the last one is benefit of using Alibaba Cloud in Thailand region is we have a local partner support, and we have a Thailand Alibaba Cloud local team. Yeah, thank you so much.
Thank you. Okay. Alex, I come to you with, I need to add something more. I read about Alibaba, I read about Google, I read about AWS. But there is only rumors and nothing official by Microsoft about the Thailand. So, can you spoil something here for us tonight?
Yeah, thank you for putting me on the spot. It's not like I'm being recorded. And
No, it's my fault. I push you, don't worry.
You're teasing. Look, let me just start off by acknowledging there is absolutely interest, excitement, local latency, local billing. It means a lot to people. And it is my belief in the fullness of time, you'll see every major cloud provider be in every major city in the world in that fullness of time. When I look and I reflect on the investment in the Thailand market, I look at the things that make the difference for the everyday Thai. I look at how we can work together to build things like Thai language models. We can make it easier to integrate with Thai services, whether that's through, for instance, the OpenAI work we're doing, built on GPT-3 with very deep and actually working Thai language models, which are incredibly hard to do. I look at the way that we can see Thai businesses starting to scale worldwide, and for me, this is really exciting. When I have conversations with the FSIs and the fintechs, like you mentioned, they're always saying, how do I build and establish in Thailand? And then how do I lead the rest of the world? How do I lead the world from APAC? So bringing it back to your question of when is a region launching? You know I'm not going to comment on that. But what I will say is that Microsoft's investment in Thailand has never faltered. We started off by opening an office over 20 years ago. We created express points of presence where you can drop off your internet connectivity within country. We have deep partnerships with the telcos to reduce, exactly like you said, the latency, the connectivity issues with all of that. So for us, Thailand continues to be an incredibly key market. We put a significant amount of investment in because, like you said, when it's so driven by FSIs, when it's so driven by incredible government projects, it always makes sense to invest in that country.
Thank you that you mentioned also about the language, because this year we are organizing, I help Jose to organize the .NET conference. There is a guy that spends all the time at the old breed example for the translation from the Thai language to the screening and the recognition of the Thai language using the Microsoft Enterprise services, like the Alibaba Cloud. Okay, now second hot question, if I can say in that way. Just today we start as 7 weeks, start to think and start to view for the 2023 about the new regulation here in Thailand, in Asia and in Europe and America about the PDPA, GDPR, and all the privacy and security regulation. So, what are the benefits from the developer, business manager, or CEO people, C-level people, to use your cloud, your services in the respect of the compliances? Because when someone as a 7 P's experience, or my direct experience, I need this certification. Alibaba Atlas certification. I have the list. Okay, we are here. Fine, cool. We are safe. We don't need to think too much. So I want to give you this question to you, and please tell us how we can trust in your services.
Can I start?
Yeah,
Thank you. Just a quick show of hands. Has anybody physically been in a data center before? Lucky people. There is context for this. When I started my career, I was a sysadmin, and I spent weeks of my life sleeping on a hard floor in a data center, racking and stacking servers overnight. It was the second worst thing I've done, and it was a horrible part of my career. As soon as public cloud started to become dominant, and I could move that undifferentiated heavy lifting of racking and stacking servers, I was incredibly happy. In that same employment, I was handling a lot of credit card data. So we had to go through the PCI DSS compliance. If anybody's been through that, it is not entirely unlike repeatedly hitting your head against a wall and being told you're wrong. It's an incredibly hard certification to go through. PCI DSS is the worst thing I've done in my life. When I first started using a public cloud provider, and they said, we'll take care of the certification for you, I cried tears of joy. Now, cut 10, 11 years later, and we're now getting new regulations every day. We have incredibly difficult multinational, multi-regional complications. We have compliance in every country. One of the key things that you'll see, and this is not just Microsoft, you'll see all the major hyperscalers doing this, is we're really externalizing those conversations with regulators for you. Never before have you been able to focus on building and allow us to focus on influencing the regulators, influencing the statutory boards. I recently did an interesting project elsewhere in Southeast Asia, building compliance as code, codifying the compliant regulations for a large regulator for the FSI industry in Malaysia. And very, very simply, tick a box in your policy. Now you have an infrastructure which will baseline against a set of compliances which we've defined fit the controls required for that regulator. I was speaking to our national technology officer only yesterday about the equivalent for Thailand. We're already working on pieces like this to make it easier. We've got out-the-box options for GDPR for the EU, and all of these things are designed really so you can focus on building, and the hyperscalers can focus on taking that undifferentiated heavy lifting that nobody really likes to do, so we can pave the road for you to run faster. So that's really where a lot of my focus has been. Taking the global initiatives of compliance as code, policy, these are amazing, and then localizing it for Southeast Asia, for Thailand, for the regions around us. So that's my view. The best thing you can rely on your hyperscalers to do is have those hard conversations for you so you can build.
Wow, very interesting. Yeah, talking about the PDPA, right? PDPA stands for Personal Data Protection Act. In Thailand, we know just if you build a website or e-commerce website or information website, you need to do have a consent from the customer, right? To store data in the server or database and allow them to have a communication channel to destroy the data also. And you have to have some policy to store data like 6 months or 1 year or 2 years, something like that, right? And actually for a cloud provider, we have called security and compliance. When you're bidding the cloud project or going to FSI or banking company, they're looking for, hey, what do you have in the compliance and security they have for this? Actually, they have 3 kinds of the compliance and security. The first one is the global security, start with ISO 27000 or 27001 is ITSM or ITU, something like that. And the second one is the country strategy compliance. Like if you are in Thailand, you have the PDPA, right? If you are in Singapore, you have a GDPR, right? It's different for the data protection. And the last one is for the industry-specific the compliance. Like if you are in USA, you have to, in the hospital, you have to comply the HIPAA, right? If you are in global in Thailand, in Asia, right? If you run the financial industry, you You have to have like a more than PCI 3DS or 3DS. You have to have the SOC 1 and SOC 2 and SOC 3 also. This is a financial report required. So by summary, the security and compliance is very critical consideration when you are working with the conglomerate or large enterprise company that dealing about the financial transaction or the FSI industry. Yeah.
Okay. So last point to over we close our short time. This is our event for Christmas. So what can happen or what will happen next year? What is the plan for Alibaba and for as well up to you guys? Okay, for the 2023. What we need to, what is the gift that you can announce today and we will receive next year?
Yeah, as Alibaba Cloud in Thailand, we run the strategy that we are the leading of the industry-specific solution, right? We are not compete with another cloud like IaaS or PaaS or SaaS. We're looking for industry-specific solution because we are Alibaba Group. We are ecosystem of the Tmall, Taobao, and financial China logistics. It's like embed in the daily life of the Asian people. When you go buy something from e-commerce website like Taobao, Tmall, right? You use the e-commerce platform of Alibaba Cloud, and you payment. You use the Ant financial platform to pay. I think everyone in this room using the how to say the 7-Eleven wallet, right? Back end is the Ant financial product run by Alibaba Cloud. So, and when you deliver good that you purchase in the e-commerce platform using in Singapore, in Chinese, they're using China logistics, like it's embedded like the buy thing and purchase thing and delivery thing is the all Alibaba Cloud platform. Yeah, we have a business unit called Damo Academy that have around 5,000 researchers over the world looking for researchers about the quantum computing and the technology like robotics and next generation of cloud also. We research a lot of things and launch new product every year like energy expert, like carbon trading, that technical word right here. Yeah. And more than that, we are the back end of the Double 11, and that is the world's largest shopping festival all over the world. Yeah, we do a real-time optimization, grab a data set, or a million of data set of each different person to the personalized recommendation product of each behavior of user. And in the 1 second, we have more than 2 million order per second. We have to ensure that every transaction is secure and accuracy also. We're using the AI and machine learning also there. We continue to develop data world and AI world, and the new product will launch in soon. Yeah.
Thank you. Big things for me for 2023. Every customer I speak to says, I want to spend less money.
Yeah.
It's pretty consistent. When I think about what's coming in 2023, we all know that we're going through a bit of an economic troubled situation. So big focus for us, and you'll see this messaging in everything that comes out. Do more with less. I actually prefer to say do more with the same, but do more with less. And you'll see this pattern. We recently launched the Azure Savings Plan. It's an easy way for you to save your money across everything you do. We're also seeing customers saying, look, I actually had this great instance, I had all this infrastructure, can I move it towards more platform as a service? Can I do it in a more scalable, more auto-fitted way? That's a lot of trends I'm seeing, and we're reacting and making sure we're supporting customers on that. Second thing is about sustainability. It's why you mentioned this as well, like a lot of our customers are saying, great, cloud innovation is interesting, but tell me a sustainability story. And not just what do you contribute primarily, but what do your logistics providers contribute? What about your upstream electricity providers? What about the people who build the chips that go in your facilities? We're seeing a lot of that focus. We've launched a sustainability calculator, and it's been really interesting when I meet, not just with IT, but when I meet CEOs, when I meet industry leaders, people are waking up. There's a lot of focus now on sustainability, not just to tick a box, but because businesses want to be behind it. Final thing I think is it continues to be security. We all keep talking about security like it's this amorphous thing of, oh, everything must be secure. But practically, the big challenge I've seen is data governance. Managing your data in a way, whether it's the right to be forgotten, or whether it's just within an internal system having good data governance. We recently relaunched Microsoft Purview, and having conversations with customers and how they're using that, that's really starting to bubble up. I'm scared that my data will be misused. I'm scared I don't have the right governance around it. So in 2023, I'm expecting a lot more conversations with customers, and we're, again, responding and reacting to this around that data governance piece. Final thing, I promised a small shout out. We're also doing a big developer event, February 25th next year. You'll see Microsoft hosting a large developer event. And when I think about that, making developers of all types first-class citizens. It's not just those who are natural coders, but you may have seen some of the recent work we've been doing around PowerX, unlocking the citizen developer. For me, really, really exciting. That idea of democratizing access to innovation, the idea of seeing a waiter in a restaurant building an application that does menus so other people don't have to. That for me is incredible. Final Christmas treats. I launched an advent calendar. aka.ms/advent22. Thank you for listening to my shout out. Daily clips about cloud readiness, and that is linked to the Christmas thing behind us. Yes. Thank you.
Thank you to you guys. Okay, see, handmade club. Something that you cannot find so often on these days. There is some question? Yes, please.
Okay, I have some questions. Is it have Microsoft have a plan to open the data center in Thailand or Southeast Asia, such as Singapore, or what? Is it have a plan?
So we've actually, thank you for the question. So we've had what we call a hero region, a region in Singapore since 2010. So if you look across Southeast Asia today, Microsoft has live facilities for full compute and full capabilities in Singapore, and we're building, as we've published a market, in Indonesia and Malaysia. While we haven't formally announced anything for Thailand today, what we do have is a express route POP, which means you can do a managed circuit, and we also do have an internet-facing breakout for our internet here. So traffic to the Singapore region actually jumps on the network inside Thailand for better control, better performance. I can't comment on dates, I can't comment on specifics around region launches, but I'll reiterate my earlier point. What you'll see over time is that every major hyperscaler launches a region in pretty much every major city. And you'll see the way that that's driven by the businesses and the industries in those cities. So we responded to Indonesia because the Indonesian government said, we have specific requirements about data onshore. We believe that we need to seize the data and get access to it. So the Indonesian government said, in-country data center. The Malaysia government haven't said that, but they have talked about the scale required. I just want to take a moment, and I apologize, you've given me a platform. When I have a conversation with a person about why data location matters, I still have never got a good answer to that. I have done some grey hat work in the past. No hacker, no malicious actor in the world cares where the data is physically located, because APIs are accessible everywhere. What you find when we talk about data sovereignty is the advantages that were shared by my friend over here. Local latency, access to innovation quicker and easier for Thais, for people. And that's what I want to focus on, and there's many ways that we've been achieving that for a while. But what you will see over time is that Microsoft launches more and more local regions in more places, and we bring that closer to customers over time.
Do we have any other questions?
I have one question for you. So 25 nationalities in 70. If anybody, without looking it up, can guess my nationality, I will buy you a Microsoft branded t-shirt. So you can see me after.
USA.
No. You can see me after if you can guess. Sorry, sir, you did have a question.
It's not a question.
Curiosity about Nasal mentioned you served 2 billion requests. 2 billion. 2 billion. No.
Yes.
Okay. About 2 million order per 6. So in the Double 11, so we start event Double 11 from 2009 and it increased every year. So we use the many kind of technology like container service, Kubernetes cluster. We use the liquid cooling system. If you see the data center, we have a kind like water, but it's the oil liquid cooling system. We use the live streaming platform also in the Lazada, whole platform Lazada using Alibaba Cloud. Using live streaming platform over the HLS protocol can adaptive bitrate, right? If your mobile phone is the Vivo, Oppo, or Huawei, can adaptive bitrate, multi bitrate also. Yeah.
Okay, interesting. Thank you. I'm curious about statistics. And again, it's about the 2 million order that you processed or 2 million requests?
2 million order for Taobao, Tmall, Alibaba.com.
Okay.
It's combination together.
Thank you. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you so much.
Can I ask your answer, Alex? I guess you come from the United Kingdom.
Closer,
Closer?
but still not yet.
London?
Scotland?
Still no.
Ireland?
Closer. Okay, you can see me after. I don't want to ruin your. Oh, no, not quite.
Italian?
No.
German?
You can guess all European. Isle of Man. Yes.
Damn it, I've got to buy you a t-shirt now. I'm from the Isle of Man, a small tax haven next to the UK, but we're proudly not English. So. But now we've got 26 nationalities.
So you are welcome to join when
Thank you.
when you want. Don't worry. It's
the-
also for you, Nasal. When you want, you can come.
We give the CV to you.
No, you can join
Get it
in
now.
our Sparking Gap for Jews. There is other question?
Do we have any other question from the attendees?
Hello. So my question is more for Nasal.
Harder again.
So a couple of years ago, we had a client in China,
Yeah.
and then so we had to deploy a website,
Okay.
just a normal website. But you know the rules in China, like the way that the data is handled and everything, is a bit
Different. Yeah.
than other areas. So what I struggled then was I could not find much documentation or any help or anything trying to deploy that or understanding the rules. Even the SSL certificate, I think it's handled differently.
Okay. Got it.
So coming to now, like, do you know if there is any extra support or something that can help someone to deploy an application that is going to work in China?
Okay. First of all, thank you for your question. It's a lot of the explanation for this question. So, if you have a customer in China, right? If you launch data center or launch your website in Singapore, is in the morning can reach in Singapore from the China. But because of Great Firewall, China is very large country, right? They have many telecommunicator like China Mobile, China Telecom, a lot of the telco. So it's large and they're blocked by the government firewall called the cyber security blocker. In the afternoon, cannot access anymore. Yeah, you have to have like certification like ICP license. ICP license is you have to register. It takes around at least 3 to 6 months to have a business in China. You have to have like a server in China like Alibaba Cloud, Huawei, Tencent, or another cloud provider. AWS also have in China also. Yeah, have in China region. Yeah. If you want to get money from China people, you have to have ICP license. Yeah, that's the one thing that need to be required. Yeah.
like a credit card, a payment detail, something like that. Yeah. And for Alibaba Cloud, we separate. In China, we call Aliyun. They have in the China region. But Alibaba Cloud International, we have alibabacloud.com. We have a headquarters in Singapore. Cover US, UK, and over 28 regions over the world, with the CDN around 2,800 nodes. Is the most CDN over the world. Yeah. Yeah. Anything else? Okay.
You're right. My God, it's hard. Why is it so hard? So yeah, I feel exactly the same. I used to do a lot of China business, and as soon as you started saying ICP, I started getting like flashbacks, PTSD. It's really tough, and I think both of us are in similar situations. If you have that again, please reach out. We have dedicated teams who tend to do quite a lot of white gloving. We've done authoring the ICP application together with customers. I'm sure you will have as well. Please ask earlier rather than later, because it's not something I want you to go through alone ever again.
Hello, I'm Bencha. I have some question about the PTDPA, because now I have a meeting about the PTA and have some issue about new standards of cybersecurity in Thailand. And it not maybe in the future not allow you to send some information. It's a secret information for the personnel to go to the Singapore to that. What is that issue will affect to the Amazon and the Microsoft or not? Because the customer cannot use and send information is a personal information to Singapore, because the security process and PDA regulation now is not stable yet. But in the future, maybe not allow you to send that information to Singapore, and how you should do.
No, you're right. If you look at the regulations today, they're still being formalized. They're changing every day. So we are playing a very active part in informing them. Not because we're trying to hide anything, but really we want to make sure that Thailand has access to the innovation and scale of all of the global hyperscalers. So we are working on it. Where the regulations are today is guidelines. And when you read through them, there's nothing you must do. It's you can consider doing, which is incredibly hard to comply with. So we are working on National Technology Officer, and I met yesterday to talk about this very thing. So we're on it with you, we're partnering with you, but I also don't have confirmation of what will happen. But when I've watched the same behaviors in other countries around the region, what I've found is that early regulation, no data may leave. Later regulation, data may leave, but these conditions. And that's where I'm seeing the regulations start to go towards already.
Yeah, technically, many companies using the hybrid cloud solution also. Yeah, some personal information they store on-prem or on data center themselves in Thailand. So for the incoming request or the data that need to be scaled, they're using cloud provider in Singapore or in Thailand. Yeah, some hybrid solution can help a lot on the PDPA or consent for customer. Yeah. That's all.
Something like that? No. Okay.
Any other question? Last question.
So, okay, no question. Again, thanks to both of you. Thanks for the information. Thanks to come here. Hopefully that you enjoy the night, okay? And I say you again to the audience here and to the remote one, thanks to follow us. Please start to follow, if you don't, the Alibaba news and the blogs, plus the Azure and Microsoft blogs and news. Saying that, thank you very much. Good night.